In 1977, the Associated Press named Aggie offensive guard Jim Hough a second-team All-American. At Utah State, he blocked for two of the top offensive players in Aggie history, quarterback Eric Hipple and running back Rick Parros. Later, he played in the East-West Shrine Game, was picked in the fourth round of the 1978 NFL Draft by Minnesota, and played for 9 seasons with the Vikings.
Coming to Utah State was probably the best decision I ever made. I had some California schools to go to, and my brother was up here. And I think the biggest reason why we chose to come here, number one, is Phil Kruger did a great job recruiting. But I had an aunt and uncle that lived in Hiram, and they were the Haxtons, and we would come up here every summer vacation, and this was our vacation. It was my mom's sister, and they just treated us wonderful. And you know, it's after I came to school here too. It was great because every Sunday we had dinner, and we didn't have dinner we only had brunch, and that was it for the meal. You know, it's a funny thing because I understood Phil Kruger a little bit. I thought, you know, he was never wrong. I always thought that he had great assistant coaches, just phenomenal. Guy that I'll never forget, and is probably one of the greatest coaches that I ever had, is Chris Pella. He was the first guy that met you when you came into the Valley, and he was the first guy to say goodbye. I mean, it'll be good to see Chris again. But the difference between the two coaches, I would have to say, is Phil was, I'm not going to call him a dictator, but he was pretty tough. And you know, and he went on to be a professional coach. He went on to be, I think, president of Tampa Bay Buccaneers and a lot of things. And Bruce Snyder came in, and Bruce was first thing he did is analyze his talent from top to bottom, put some rules in. He hired some great assistant coaches, great young coaches boy, if you went through the rosters over the years, who's who in professional coaching. It's just incredible. Bruce by himself was NC2A Coach of the Year one year, Arizona State. So, and Bruce had he was always trying to put the best athlete at the right position. And Bruce had the awareness, the hindsight to move me to guard. And by the third year, I was lifting myself out of position. You know, I was starting to gain a lot of weight. I was fast, but I didn't have that mobility that a Bruce Snyder defense what they wanted. You know, I could sit and play heads-up football all day long, smash into guys, play rugby. But the way he wanted it was he wanted guys moving upfield and some of those deals. And, Bruce recognized that maybe I'm an offensive lineman, not a defensive lineman. So it was I thank Bruce for that. I really do. It was a hard move. I felt like walking off campus. And he talked to me, and he said, stick it out, try it out, and thank you, Bruce. He knew that I needed a lot of work. So he had me watch films of Dave Manning all winter. Dave Manning. And he says, if you want to learn to play guard, you watch this guy. And I thought it was neat that he's also got voted in. And I sat and I watched those films over and over. And he was a good football player, real good. Kenny Siemens, one of the great equipment managers of all time. You get on Kenny's bad side, you're done. Kenny said, here, take this jersey. He goes, nobody's worn it in a long time, you can go ahead and wear it. And I didn't even know it was Merlin Olsen's jersey. I guess it came out of retirement. They locked it up for 10 years. And so it was I told Phil this when Phil had called me, and I said, that's a magic jersey. It's, it's been good to two guys, real good. And but that was an honor to be able to wear the jersey. Probably my greatest memory of a game at Utah State would have to be the last year. University of Wyoming was in Logan. And we'd just come off of a real tight loss in Laramie, and they were up here. And I thought we had a good offense. We could grind it out. You know, we had a good quarterback, Eric Hipple. Parros was running back. Jimmy Bryant was a wide receiver, excellent wide receiver. And we needed to have, I think, an 80-yard drive at the end of the game. And this had to be an 8-minute drive. This couldn't be a quick strike because they were doing well on offense too. And, we're down on the 40-yard line driving into their territory. And I look down in the end zone and I see my dad down there smoking a cigarette and pacing. And I see my uncle trying to calm him down. And I said, I think I'm stressed out. And I'm looking at these two guys. And that would have to be the fondest, just the best game ever, as far as the memory goes. And there's been a lot of great memories. But the way we drove down the field and scored a touchdown, and everything was in slow motion. It was flawless, the blocking. Rick cutting through there, making we were chewing up 6-7 yards at a time. And then defense goes back out there and stops them instantly. That's when I knew that Utah State, we'd finally turn the corner and things were going to get better. Ended up getting drafted in the 4th round to a state that I thought had never thawed out. I thought it was snowy all year round up there, which turned out wrong. It gets hot and buggy up there. And so Bud had called me. I never watched the draft, listened to the draft. I didn't do any of that. And I got a call, and I'm glad I went there. I've always said if you can get a kid into Salt Lake and get him in that car ride for 2 hours, and you can put him up on that hill, you can bring anybody in here. The people of the Valley were phenomenal. Friendliest people in the world. It was the greatest decision I ever made was come to Utah State.